Greetings and welcome to the ROIClear Podcast. My name is Ray Hightower, and today we are fortunate to have as our guest Mr. Eugene Gershman. Eugene Gershman is the CEO of GIS Development Corporation. He's a real estate developer, a builder, and an entrepreneur, and we look forward to hearing more about him today. Welcome, Eugene Gershman. Welcome.
Ray, it's my absolute pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
We are very glad to have you here too, Eugene. Very glad to have you. And it's wonderful that we can be the people who are part of this podcast are all over the world. We can be separated by thousands of miles, but boom, we're together in one room now. So glad to have you here. To kick things off, we typically like to start off with an elevator pitch. And for those who are new to the ROI Clear podcast, Eugene Gershman is on an elevator with someone he wants to influence. So we would ask you, Eugene, what would you say to that person in the course of an elevator ride?
All right. So my name, Eugene Gershman, right? I'm a developer. We build multifamily, single-family residences, primarily in the Pacific Northwest, Greater Seattle area. And a few years ago, we developed this cool model where we partner with property owners to enable them to get their sites developed. There's a ton of tear downs in the area that we can build nice single-family homes. There's a lot of opportunity for multifamily development, and that's what we help folks out to do.
Wonderful. So if they have a piece of property or a land or a piece of land or a land with some improvement on it, some building on it, and maybe they don't want that building there anymore, they would, or you would partner with them, they would partner with you, you would develop it, and they don't necessarily need to sell you the land. They would be in a partnership arrangement with you.
Exactly. So it's the best of both worlds. They get to invest into real estate. They get to see something cool being built on their property, and they get to profit from it when the project is done. This way, there is they don't need to try to, like, especially right now, the real estate market for developable lots is not very strong. Houses sell okay, but raw land doesn't sell very well, at least in our area. So this way, they don't need to discount the land to sell it. They can contribute it into a partnership. Sometimes they can even pull some cash out when they do that.
Hmm.
And then we help them get the project developed. We help fundraise for it. And then eventually we will help them build it. And on exit, they realize a much higher multiple on their original investment rather than if they were to sell the land.
This is wonderful. They're able to tap into your expertise and experience as well because you're a developer. You do this all the time. If they're a landowner, they may or may not have a background in that area, but certainly they can leverage your boots on the ground direct expertise that way.
Absolutely. And sometimes folks choose to do it themselves, and that's fine. A lot of times we see that property owners would come to an architect and say, "Hey, I've got this land, I want to develop it, but what can I do there?" And the architect helps them out. But a few times, an architect would actually call us and say, "Hey, I've got this client. They're great. They've got this cool potential. They really need help." And so
Yes,
we would come in and we would get them, take it across the finish line.
wonderful. Now, they say that necessity is the mother of invention, right? And many times when an entrepreneur comes up with a cool new business model, something that is cool and unique, it comes about because there was some problem that they ran into or some obstacle challenge. Curious, you developed this model, an obstacle or challenge, or did you in a burst of innovation? How did you come up with this model?
Well, it took almost 20 years to get there. So our company is a family business, originally started by my father, who was a commercial contractor.
Yes.
And about 20 years ago, he lured me into the business. And our very first project, I really didn't want to join the family business at the time. Uh, but he suckered me in there, and no regrets on my end, not now anyway.
Yes.
Uh, and so our first project when I joined the business was a development project where we had an opportunity to expand the construction company. A developer investor came to us and they said, we have an opportunity. We need a contractor, but we also need somebody to help us fundraise. And we need somebody with a longer history, longer experience and background that we could rely upon to
Mm.
fundraise. And so that was our first opportunity. I just graduated with an MBA. I was not a builder. My father said, well, you know how to do the numbers, so why don't you do the numbers and see if it makes sense? And that was our
Mhm.
first partnership. That's how the model first, that's how we first started talking about, well, maybe we could do, instead of just building, we could also do development. And then fast forward several years later, around 2018, we were finishing a townhouse project, and we were looking at the next opportunities.
Mhm.
And we were frankly, well, I personally was concerned about the economy. We had a long run in the economy, and I was getting the sense that we're going to see the decline soon. And so I did not want to get back on a fundraising bandwagon. I did not want to buy the land at the time. And that's when we got approached by a couple of other property owners who had projects in development and they needed
Mhm.
help taking them across the finish line. So we said, perfect, let's do that. That way, we don't need to fundraise right now to start something from scratch. We can help somebody who already is underway on the project. And after a little while, that became a model. We said, we're not going to buy land anymore. In fact, that townhouse
Mm.
development that we did was at the time our last project. We since built one more, but we owned the land for several years of our own. All of our other projects have been in partnership with somebody else. And usually people call us because they need help fundraising. A
Mhm.
lot of times I've called by architects who have clients, inexperienced client help, and sometimes we had put the deal together.
So you were brought in because someone was in trouble. Well, it looks like there were many factors going on. It was 2018. You had some concerns about the economy. You wanted to make sure that you de-risked the moves that you were making. It's a family business. You say you were lured into it, but you smiled when you said that. Those of us who are listening to this on audio, Eugene smiled when he said this. So I would say maybe you were lured into it, but you were happy to be lured into it. And then fast forward to 2018, you're concerned about what's happening in the economy at that time. You're in the state of Washington. Some people in trouble approach you. They have land, they want to develop it, but they don't have your expertise. Had they already begun their project? Were they in trouble on the project, or they had not begun the project yet?
They have begun the project, and I wouldn't say they were in trouble. They just didn't have the experience to go out and raise additional funds to get the projects
Okay,
financed.
got it. So
So
they approached you early on. They approached you early enough that you could do something about it.
exactly,
Excellent.
exactly.
Excellent. And as a result of going through that experience, you said, you know what? We're not going to just be contractors, constructors, builders. Yes, we have that experience, but we're going to get in earlier on the deal, be the developers, and have an ownership piece of the whole project.
Exactly. So we would contribute our profits. The way we position ourselves is we don't make any profit during the development process. Uh, in return, we ask for an equity share in the
Mhm.
project, and then we would help guarantee the loan. We would help put together the construction team, and we would raise additional equity if necessary. And that would enable not only the property owner to get the project developed, but it would also allow us to contribute to the community here and get involved in more projects than we would otherwise be able to do if we were to just solely develop our own, one project at a time.
Right, right. Got it. So it's not just about the profits. You want the equity position, but there's some things that you want to do in the community long term.
Absolutely. Well, it's not, long term, it's never about profits. Obviously, projects need to make financial sense, and nobody would do the project if there was no financial incentive for it. But ultimately, the goal is to contribute to the housing crisis in a positive way, to help build as many homes as possible, um, build as many apartment and condominium communities as possible. And that scale is only possible in a partnership scenario.
Right. You know what? And that's a brilliant segue that you just initialized there. That takes us to something you said on one of your social media channels. You have a phrase there: building dreams and tackling housing shortages. Can you unpack that for us?
Well, there's no secret that we don't have enough homes for the folks that want to build them, especially around here in the Seattle area. Everything is so expensive, and
Hmm.
supply and demand, right? The reason prices go up is because there's more demand than the supply.
Yes.
The only way to address that is to deliver more product. Unfortunately, it's not always possible. Uh, but I strongly believe that the more we build, the more we develop, the better it's going to get in the long run.
Yes. And you're in Seattle. You know what? I was just reminded, I took a tour of Seattle some years ago, and apparently there's Seattle where everyone lives now, and beneath there's another Seattle that used to be there.
That's right. Yeah, there's they do these underground tours downtown.
Yes. All right. Does that present any challenges when you're developing there? I don't know if you're in the part of Seattle where you have that underground portion, or that affect what you're.
No, not downtown that you're describing. It's part of the historic district there, mostly around Pioneer Square. There's some development going on there. It's kind of it is difficult there right now. Downtown is going through an interesting transformation over the last few years. There's a huge homelessness crisis that
Mm,
hopefully is going to get resolved at some point. But downtown is experiencing kind of an interesting shift right now. We're mostly on the east side of the area. There's Lake Washington here that separates us from Seattle core, and that's
hmm.
where most of the tech community is growing. Amazon is moving their offices to the east side slowly. Uh, this is the home of Microsoft. This is where all the tech is growing. Meta is growing, Google is growing around here. So that's where the new tech money is located. And so we're trying to build out here. We're also expanding, building communities down south in the Tacoma area. Tacoma is,
Hmm.
probably the oldest city in the state. That's where our next project is located. But yeah, so I forgot where I was going with this, but
No, I was asking you about the Seattle beneath the Seattle, and you're
that
talking about geographically where you are.
that's
Wonderful.
right. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Now let's go back a little bit. You mentioned how you were lured into the family business. Tell us about how the family business got started, and then your impressions of it growing up into it. And I should preface this by saying, here's why I'm asking. Statistically, there are very few family businesses that get passed on to the next generation, to the second generation. If you talk about the third generation, it's even lower. So clearly, in your family, something is being done right. Perhaps there's some lessons you can share with me and with our audience so that we might be able to do multi-generation family businesses as well.
It's interesting. We never really planned for it to go this way. Well, my father may have, but he never shared the goal with me. It
Yes.
evolved almost naturally for me. When I graduated from college, my degree was in economics. My father was always a builder.
Hmm.
He was in construction his entire life. My grandfather, his dad was in construction. They weren't in business together. My grandfather had a government job, but he was always involved in construction projects. And so going through college, I really did not want to be in a family business. I majored in economics. I started working in an investment firm and doing, small scale kind of financial planning, retirement planning deals. And that was the path I was on. I wasn't super thrilled about it. And when we had this opportunity to invest into a project and to become a partner in a development project, it the way it was born for us is I started analyzing pro formas. I started
Mm,
analyzing the numbers, and that skill set that I acquired in business school became very useful to where the company was going to pivot. And the pivot was from construction into more of development world.
mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, my sister, who's also in business with us, she was going through college. She majored in business, and she always knew that she was going to join the family business. So that was kind of her path. She didn't even want to look for a job when she was graduating.
Right.
To me, I wanted to find my independent path. So what you're asking is interesting because I have 3 kids and my sister has 2 boys.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and we have talked about, well, will any of our children continue with us in family business? And, right now it's too early to tell, but
Mm-hmm.
at least 1 or 2 of them between, 5 siblings or 5 children, 3 of mine and 2 of hers, there's probably 1 or 2 that would fit the bill that would have enough entrepreneurship spirit and enough interest in continuing this.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think the most important part about creating this longevity and creating this path for the family to for the kids to join the business and to continue it is to have a goal in mind. It's
Mm.
not just being on a hamster wheel, running this little shop or restaurant or whatever. It's actually having a bigger vision, bigger goal, and so that's what I think is important.
Having a bigger vision, a bigger goal. And that must have been communicated to you, maybe not explicitly, but looking back, do you see that your father communicated that to you and your sister when you were growing up?
I believe so. I believe so. We're definitely we have discussed the strategies and the development path many times. Our father's original goal was to vertically integrate the company. He wanted to own the design and engineering aspect of business. He wanted to own manufacturing aspect of business. He wanted to own the construction aspect of business, and this kind of a wide growth was
Mm-hmm.
the original path. I mean, visions evolve. Today, we're scaling not scaling, but we're narrowing the vision into just the development path and
Mm.
increasing the partnerships because this is something that we can control. We
Yeah.
would much rather create long-term strategic partnerships and grow the business that way and actually focus on delivering the best kinds of project rather than um, trying to manage too many aspects of the business, vertical aspects of the business ourselves.
Right. You're practicing Who Not How by Sullivan and Hardy.
That's right. That's right.
You're doing that real time, right in the middle of it and expanding that. That's, yeah, wonderful. Now, let me ask you, what is it? Because you're doing so much. You're on a mission to deal with the homelessness issue. You're on a mission to do that. Certainly, you're developing. You're bringing in people who have land that needs to be developed, and you're bringing them in as partners rather than just acquiring the land and taking on all that risk. And you're also creating opportunities for them. With all of the things that you have going on, what would you say excites you most about what you're doing with GIS?
What excites me most today is to see where this economy is going to take us and what part we're going to play in it.
Mm-hmm.
It is very interesting. When you look back, you kind of see the path. It's the vision is hindsight is 2020, right? When you look in the back, you're like, oh, well, that all made sense. But now you're
Yeah.
sitting here today, looking out the window, and you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
We don't know what's going to happen with inflation. We don't know what's going to happen with interest rates. We don't know what's going to happen with GDP growth. We don't know what's going to happen with the election, with immigration, and all of these issues are compounded. And we're sitting here trying to navigate the business and trying to see how what are we going to do to
Hmm.
grow the business, to survive in this environment. And that's probably the most exciting thing for me, is to see what we could do to insulate ourselves from some of these events that are outside of our control,
Right.
while also being able to deliver the value to our partners, to our investors, and eventually to the tenants in our communities. And that's why today, where we're sitting with all of this uncertainty, construction costs are high due to the inflation.
Hmm.
Our NOIs aren't growing as fast as we would like to be to have new projects pencil. A lot of our peers, a lot of developers are not developing new projects right now, are not starting new projects because it is hard for them to pencil. And
Yeah.
that is exactly why we are communicating to the property owners that today is actually the best time to get started. Because think
Mm.
about it. If you're developing an apartment community or a condominium community or even a single family community, it's going to take, at least in our environment here, at least 2 years, 18 months to 24 months to get a permit. We're not
Hmm.
even starting construction yet. But if you want to get a permit for an apartment building, it's going to take you 2 years. And then it's going to take you 2 more years to get it built. Do we really think that in 4 years, the economy is not going to change? The NOIs aren't going to grow. The construction costs
Right.
aren't going to stabilize. No. Uh, every economic cycle historically, I mean, of course, something could happen drastic in the future, but historically,
Sure.
economy goes through cycles. Right now, we're in a down cycle of the economy, and I do believe that it is going to take minimum of 2 years for us to see the upward trend. Well, in 2 years, a lot of the other developers are going to start. If we start today, in 2 years, we'll have the permit and we can start construction. And so that is kind of the most exciting thing for me, is to see this opportunity, especially for longer term planning, um, to get things going right now.
I love that, man. Today is the best time to get started.
That's right.
I love that. When you're right in the middle of it and other people are afraid, and then there are other obstacles and some people have pulled back, you're saying push ahead because today is the best time to get started.
That's right.
Wonderful, wonderful.
That's right.
We are coming towards the end of our time together. This has gone really quick, Eugene. This has gone very, very quickly. And as we wrap up, a couple of things I want to ask you. Clearly, you're well read. Economics undergrad, MBA, grad school, and clearly you're well read and you're immersed in your business. What are you reading now, or what are you listening to now to sharpen your saw and to keep yourself sharp?
Audiobooks, definitely, on my runs and drives. One of my favorite, it's not super new, but one of my favorite is Never Split the Difference by
By
Chris
Chris
Voss.
Voss.
Yep,
Yes,
love the
yes,
negotiation book. I'm rereading it for the third time now. It's
yes.
funny how you pick up little things, little details. Definitely one of my favorite. I like Oversubscribed.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Love that whole concept of building up the loyal base, loyal customer base, loyal partner base. And so that's I'm trying to practice this and trying to preach that. So that's these are my top two, I'd say.
Yes. Okay. Never split the difference and oversubscribed. We will make sure we include links to those in our show notes. And then finally, how can people get in touch with you?
GIScompanies.co, that's our website. I have a personal blog dedicated to private equity, privateequity.dev. And otherwise, I'm on LinkedIn, Eugene Gershman. I'm on Instagram. Look me up.
All right. And we'll include those in the show notes as well. Eugene Gershman, thank you so much for being with us today on the ROI Clear podcast.
Ray, thank you very much.